Hey football fans, and welcome to the Coordinator Project. In this video we're looking at Lincoln Riley's 2020 Oklahoma offense, but I'll be hitting a bunch of different play callers from all over the country throughout the offseason, so be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to get notified whenever a new breakdown posts. When it comes to offensive background, Lincoln Riley's is incredibly simple. It all goes back to Mike Leach and his air raid offense. Riley's never worked for another offensive coach. As a freshman at Texas Tech in 2002, Riley started out as a walk-on quarterback for Leach. His playing days were short-lived, though, as longtime Leach assistant Dana Holgerson remembers in a characteristically colorful quote. He sucked as a player, but had a great mind. Mike said, "Do yourself a favor and hang up the cleats and start coaching. It might pay off for you eventually." That's right, Riley only lasted 1 year as a walk-on for Leach. That on-field failure would become a much greater opportunity, though, as he transitioned to a student assistant role in his sophomore year and held on to that position throughout the rest of his college career. Immediately after graduation, he became a grad assistant, and then 1 year later, at the ripe age of 23, he was promoted to wide receiver coach, where he coached up guys like Michael Crabtree and Danny Amendola, and worked alongside future head coaches like Dana Holgerson and Seth Luttrell. Then, in 2009, chaos struck the air raid world. Texas Tech fired Leach after allegations that he'd locked Craig James's kid in a closet or something, and suddenly the whole staff was out of a job. Tech defensive coordinator Ruffin McNeil quickly landed on his feet with a head coaching position at East Carolina, and he brought Riley along with him, giving him his first opportunity to call plays. By 2014, Riley turned the Pirates into the number 5 offense in the country. Bob Stoops came calling about the offensive coordinator job at Oklahoma, and the rest is history. Of course, McNeil and Stoops were both defensive coaches, so Mike Leach is really the only boss that Riley's had on the offensive side of the ball. With all of these air raid-derived offenses, the first thing that most people want to know is, A, do they have a run game, and B, how does it fit into the offense? In answer to this question, Riley's offense definitely has a run game, and it aims to be a pretty physical one. While he does run plenty of the zone plays that many of his spread contemporaries are so fond of, he runs an almost equal number of gap plays, and especially plays that rely on pulling linemen and blocking backs. More specifically, one of his most called run plays is counter, and the key feature of a counter play is that it pulls 2 blockers from one side of the formation to the other. For example, on this play, the Sooners are running counter to the left, and so the 2 pullers on this play are going to be the right guard and the right tackle. After the snap, the right guard's going to go first, and it'll be his job to kick out the end man on the line of scrimmage. The right tackle is then going to lead up through that hole to the second level, opening up this lane and letting the running back get through for a massive gain. So why does Riley love this counterplay so much? At the end of the day, it's all about numbers. In this formation, Oklahoma has 6 blockers in the box, including the 5 offensive linemen and the second running back who's going to be a blocker on this play. On the other side of the ball, TCU has 7 or 8 guys who could potentially get into the run fit. They've got 3 defensive linemen at the first level, 2 linebackers stacked behind them at the second level, defensive backs on the outside as force players to each side of the formation, and even a safety who doesn't have a receiving threat and so can potentially rock down into the box. This means that Oklahoma doesn't have the numbers to win with just a straight-ahead run play. When they pull those 2 backside linemen across the formation, however, that overloads the left side of the formation and gives the Sooners the numbers that they need. They can't block everybody in the box, but they can block everybody to one side, and that's good enough. Riley isn't the only air raid guy that runs counter, but he might run it the most, and I think that he definitely does the best job of integrating it with his passing offense. We'll see a good example of that right here on a 1st and 10 against Iowa State. Remember that the key feature of counter is that it pulls 2 blockers across the formation. Well, on this play, check out the left tackle and left guard right here. Notice how, after this ball snapped, those guys pull across the formation just like on the counterplay that we just saw. In this frame, we can also see the quarterback holding the ball out to the running back, and this completes the play-action fake. The key here, though, and the reason that Riley's doing all of this is to impact this linebacker right here. Because Riley runs counter so much, when that guy sees 2 linemen pulling toward him, he can't help but come up to attack the line of scrimmage. When he does that, though, he's not dropping to his zone coverage assignment, and so the quarterback's able to complete a throw to his tight end down the hash. While counter runs in the play-action passing game were huge parts of Riley's Oklahoma offense in 2020 and wouldn't have been found in a Leach offense, there was a less common Leach staple that was included in a really interesting way. Here, I'm talking about the shovel pass, which we're seeing right now. If you're Mike Leach and you're throwing the ball 70 to 80% of the game, then shovel passes like this fulfill a really important function. Because you throw so many passes, linebackers and defensive backs are naturally going to bail out a little bit faster than normal. When those guys drop, however, they also empty out the box, and so a shovel pass like this can be a great way to punish a back 7 that's cheating to get into their drop. Unlike Leach, however, Riley doesn't throw the ball 70 to 80% of the time, and so he's not going to get the same kind of cheating secondaries. Because of that, he's found a new way to incorporate the shovel pass into his offense, and he does it off of his play-action passing game. As we've seen, Riley loves run plays that utilize pulling linemen, and so on this play, we're going to keep an eye on this right guard right here. After the snap, notice that he pulls across the formation from right to left, and this pull is going to accomplish two things. First, it makes this look like a run play, but second, this is going to put that right guard in position to be a lead blocker for the running back on the shovel pass, as we can see if we run this play forward a little bit more. The real key, though, is in how Iowa State's linebackers react to the run fake here. On this play, they're pretty disciplined. They take a few steps up toward the line of scrimmage, but they don't fly downhill. Instead, they keep their eyes on their keys, identify the play-action pass, and efficiently recover to drop into their zones. Normally, this kind of discipline's a good thing, but on this play, it's going to kill them because when they get into their drops, that just sets them up to get blocked by Oklahoma's left guard and pulling right guard. Those guys get blocked, everyone else is dropped out into coverage, and the running back has all the room in the world to get downfield after he catches the shovel pass. This is just a really interesting way to take one of Leach's major weapons and to incorporate it into an offense that relies much more heavily on a run game built around pulling guards and play-action passing. Another interesting thing about Riley's 2020 offense in comparison to a classic air raid attack is that it really didn't have a lethal quick passing game, and this comes from a couple of factors. First of all, their quarterback was a redshirt freshman, and for as good as their passing game was in 2020, it didn't look to me like it was firing on all cylinders yet. In the games that I broke down against Iowa State and TCU, for example, the quarterback broke the pocket and scrambled on more than 1 in 5 dropbacks. Sometimes those scrambles were productive and sometimes they weren't, but the point is that those are fundamentally failed passing plays and they don't show up in the quarterback's completion percentage or in his yards per attempt. This issue was then exacerbated by teams playing a ton of 8-man coverages, and we can see a representative play here against Iowa State. To the right side of the formation, Oklahoma's compressing the formation and they're running a snag concept to try and create a 3-man triangle read. So, the H-back here is going to run a little hitch, making him the inside man in the triangle. The running back is then going to free release out to the flat as the outside man, while the tight end runs a corner route to become the top point of the triangle. After the snap, though, we're going to see Iowa State drop this defensive end out into underneath coverage to this side, and that's going to put him right underneath that H-back, who is the inside man in the triangle running that hitch, and this is going to allow that defensive end to threaten any quick throw to that guy. Perhaps anticipating this pre-snap, Rattler isn't even going to look to this side of the field. To the left side of the field, the slot receiver is going to be running an out route. When he looks at the coverage to this side, he sees an off safety covering that guy, and so he thinks that his receiver will be able to beat him underneath into the outside. After the snap, he's going to look straight to that side of the field, but he's falling into a little bit of a trap here because that safety is not actually playing as soft as he seems to be. On this play, Iowa State's disguising their coverage and running an inverted cover 2. That means that the cornerback is going to bail out to play a deep half, while that safety is inverting down and outside to cover the flat. This inversion is then going to give that safety great leverage to jump the out route. In spite of this situation, Rattler doesn't even try to come back to the snag on the right side of the field. He sees an apparent lane developing in the B gap here and decides to take it, and this is something that he's a little bit quick to do at this stage in his career. To his credit, he does make some guys miss and turns this into a nice gain, but a couple of different guys had a shot at him short of the sticks here, and you might like to see him at least check the other side of the field before tucking it and running like this. Still though, the key issue here is just that teams feel free to drop 8 and flood those underneath zones in the passing game, leaving the quarterback without a ton of good options. This might seem like an obvious thing to do against a Leach team where there's no real run threat, but given Oklahoma's run game, we might expect the Sooners to just cram the ball down their throats. The problem here is that their offensive line did struggle at times, both against movement and in some one-on-one situations. On this play, we'll see how movement could shut down an otherwise promising run play. Here, the Sooners are running zone to the left, and TCU's playing with a pretty light box on 2nd and 10. After the snap, though, the playside defensive end up here is going to stab down to the inside. The left tackle is going to see this, and he's going to get hands on him, but it's very clear that he expects the left guard to be there to take over this block, and so he leaves that defensive end and releases up to the second level. The left guard's clearly not on the same page, though, and so the defensive end gets into the backfield largely unblocked to cut off the play and make first contact. Plays like this meant that the Sooner run game, in spite of its interesting place in the air raid coaching tree, could only ever be mediocre in 2020 and couldn't consistently punish teams who wanted to drop 8 and take away the quick passing game. What the Sooners could do, though, was throw the ball deep, and they were especially good at creating conflict for opposing safeties by pairing a deep route to one side with an intermediate crossing route working from the other. On this play, for example, they're going after this safety. To do that, they're going to run a post with this outside receiver, and then they're going to pair it with a crossing route coming from the far side of the field. Now, if we look at this play a little bit after the snap, we can see what makes it so dangerous. The problem here is that it puts this safety in a bind because he has to make a choice. Is he going to drop to provide inside help for the cornerback on the post route? Or is he going to come up to take away the crossing route? On this play, he chooses the first option. He's going to drop, he's going to bracket that post with the cornerback to take away the deep throw. When he does this, however, the crossing receiver is able to work through a zone completely free. The quarterback hits him, and he gets down the sidelines for a long touchdown. On this play, we'll see what happens when the safety makes the opposite choice. This time they're going after this guy, so the slot receiver here is going to go deep down the seam, and then this tight end is going to work over the middle on the intermediate crosser. If we flip to the end zone angle, we can see exactly how this works. This is that safety that Oklahoma is going after, and this is the tight end that's going to attack him on the crossing route. The slot receiver that's going to be running vertical is then off the screen to the right here. After the snap, that slot receiver is going to come into the frame, and now we can get a great look at the dilemma for the safety. As he sees the tight end running across toward him, he's going to sit to rob that route, but the effect of this is that it isolates that slot receiver on his defensive back downfield. If we pause the play at this point in the down, we can see that safety stepping up to take the tight end on the crossing route. On top of this, we can see that when he does this, it isolates that slot receiver on his defensive back downfield. As we can see right here, he's been able to get behind that defender and stack him up, and so there's nothing left to do but for the quarterback to hit him over the top for a 61-yard touchdown. When we look at plays like this in the last one, it's easy to see why Oklahoma was top 10 in the country in passing plays at 30 or more yards, and this was really the aspect of their offense that made it so effective. Alright, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, you might consider hitting the thumbs up button down below to like it. The more likes, the more YouTube will recommend these videos to other people, so it really helps to support the channel. Also, if there's a coordinator that you want to see on here, let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notified whenever a new breakdown goes up, and I'll see you here next time.